Welcome to the Current Report podcast. I'm Cece Woods, investigative reporter at thecurrentreport.com, and I am here with my co-host, Mr. Al Labrada,
Good
retired.
morning.
Good morning, retired assistant chief at LAPD, happily retired,
Very.
as we continue to mention.
Too many shenanigans going on in that place.
Holy moly. Anyway, so Senor Labrada sent me the cover of the California Post. Top cop tells Post he needs another 4,000 officers. Badge to worse.
You
Ow.
couldn't come up with a better name than that. My God, that
Oh my God.
kudos to the editor that approved that name.
They do tend to go, a little sensational, but this is not a sensational headline. This is like legit. It is like so bad. And we've been talking about this since last year. How LAPD is suffering from their own historic staffing crisis, just like LASD is. And Al, you also pointed out how many graduates were at the Academy class last week.
I had a big one, 16, and 7 of them were from outside agencies. So you can't make this up, and you reference sensational. To me, that's a sensational request, 4,000 additional. You can't even fill 16 more above every month, or 30 or 40. You're graduating 16. There's a problem.
With legitimately 2 years to go, less than 2 years to go for the Olympics. So basically, you're saying we need 2,000 each year, ready to rock and roll, ready to go. But when they even come out of the academy, they are so not seasoned and so not ready for this, right?
Well, you got to remember there's an annual attrition of minimum of 4 to 500 a year or more now. We're starting to see a lot more moving on after 20 years, which is kind of unheard of. LAPD has good incentives in place, such as the deferred retirement option program. Those are all programs put in place to keep seasoned officers, but many are just walking away from those because there's just really no incentive to stay in an environment. Not only you're not politically supported, but the department, Jim McDonnell has been in that seat for a year and a half, and guess what? Nothing's changed. They've got all these committees formed to study this and that, and let's change. A year and a half later, I think your study should be done and implementation should have already happened. You got a morale issue and you got a retention issue. Those are two problems that are not going to allow you to fulfill necessities of 4,000, let alone 16 or more.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Post. I know how they operate, but I am a fan of them splattering this all over the cover. And so I didn't read the article. I can't imagine that Jim McDonnell gave the Post an exclusive, hey, please listen to me whine about the fact that I have no personnel. And so I'm just kind of wondering what motivated them, aside from the fact that they just want clicks, to write this.
Well, I think it's in the headlines. I mean, we've talked about it. We've talked about the shortage of personnel. Like you referenced earlier, we have the Olympics coming up. Super Bowl's coming back up next year. Yeah, the game is in Inglewood. But believe me, I know firsthand because I planned the last one we had in 2022. And we have a significant footprint in the city of LA with the housing of athletes, the housing of media. And then, of course, we have the Olympic Village. I'm not the Olympic Village. I'm sorry, the NFL, live over at the convention center, which is a big, footprint for our personnel. But we still have day-to-day operations. The department still has day-to-day operations of patrol they have to manage in light of the shortage. And so the article was interesting because it continues to raise a flag that I think you and I have talked about, many others have brought up. But to throw a number out such as 4,000, the department's gone through this period. There was a period when one of the former mayors, Villaraigosa, was screaming the bell that we needed 10,000. And I was part of that buildup too. I helped in the consolidation of outside police department out of general services that brought forth maybe an additional 300 sworn, on top of some other numbers that were shifted. Yeah, so on optics it looked like 10,000, but you're inheriting additional responsibilities. Right now that number of 4,000 is mildly interesting, but you graduate a class of 16 and seven of those are going to an outside agency. I don't know how you're going to build 4,000,
That's nine,
you know,
like nine,
nine
nine,
people.
nine people.
And you got to face the reality too, Cece. A lot of those kids aren't going to make probation, let alone want to stay on after a year. They may go work for a small agency that treats them better and has a good, opportunity for growth.
Well, interestingly enough, so the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, much bigger, uh, organization than LAPD because they are county-wide. And the most recent academy class that just graduated, I think last week as well. I think there were 54 out of the normally they're well over 100,
Yeah.
right? Like 80 to 100. 54, and then again, some of those will not even make it into the department.
Mhm.
They'll go to other agencies that are giving bonuses, that treat their personnel much better with more respect, and they don't face the same challenges that um, law enforcement does in LA County. So, what I find interesting is that this cover makes Karen Bass look really fucking bad. Okay, when they're highlighting her basically number two in charge of Los Angeles. She's number one. He's number two, right? Because you were number three at one point.
Well, yeah, I was part of the upper echelon of the department, and the reality is these problems have been persisting for many years. We
Yeah, but
raise up.
not this bad.
No, 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 not this bad. But diving deep into it, Cece, if you look at it, it really didn't talk about it in this article. It's easy to say I need 4,000 cops. It really, defund police has been a problem. Yeah, defund the police has been a problem nationwide. Most law enforcement agencies are experiencing this, especially the larger ones. However, LAPD has to look at what policies are causing this problem for the department. We now are years, year and a half into Jim McDonnell's tenure, and you're looking at policies that existed way before him. Our complaint policy hasn't really been updated since Bernard Park's era. We've had at least four chiefs in sitting positions in those environments to be able to make significant changes. You have our police union screaming, our complaint system's weaponized. Our officers are overwhelmed with paperwork. We don't have the ability, which we should have, because most other agencies have gone through a dictation ability for them to dictate reports. A lot of technology that we've wasted, with other gadgets that we don't need. I think recently they put out an article. They were flaunting a police car that makes vibration when the siren goes off. Really, that's what we're dealing with right now. That's a deflection from the problem that persists in an organization when you have morale issues, when you have leadership at the top that is existing over from Moore's, environment. Nothing's changing. They're not looking at it from an optical view and saying, what do we need to change to help retention, to help people want to stay here for this department?
Well, aside from the internal changes that need to be made, just like at LASD, they are promoting a bunch of people who do not belong in certain positions of leadership at certain specialized units, especially those specialized units, such as arson and explosives, which I've been consistently reporting on. And because of that, 3 detectives died last year because of incompetence, complacency, laziness, and putting people in positions of power that should not be in those positions. And it continues everywhere. I get that. But at the same time, you've got a political structure or the political powers that be that will do anything they can to dismantle and destroy law enforcement.
Mhm.
And they just want us to live in complete chaos. Like it's crazy. And so, why would anybody want to be a cop in LA County? Of course not. What do you think is going to, happen as a result of where we are now? If we stay in this position, and even if, let's just say there's some miracle that we start getting a bunch of people that want to go into law enforcement. What's best case scenario?
Well, I think the best case scenario is Jim McDonnell and the leadership team he has in place is taking a deep dive as what's causing people to want to leave. What's what's causing us to not be able to retain people here any longer? Why do people want to leave at 20 years instead of 30 like they used to?
So
And
bad.
internally, they can look at that and manage that and make a lot of those changes happen. The problem is they haven't. The problem is they continue to operate as is. There's a comfort level of well, this we've always done things and we don't want to rock the boat. You know, there's overkill. There's a lot of leadership in place that really doesn't have any vision or experience in making changes that are drastic and fighting the status quo. Now, when it comes to the politics, I mean, that's an uphill battle. I mean, I always use the example of New York. People voted for this individual in New York. The cops are angry, the fire department's angry, and now you even got those that voted for him are angry, particularly the wealthy, because he wants to overly tax it.
Well,
So
I
I
do
guess
believe that. Sorry to interrupt. I do believe, as I always do, as you,
I'm used to it.
for those of you who don't know, I am mercilessly teased because I do cut this poor man off every time we talk on the phone, and that's a lot. Okay, so
Yeah.
um, but I think that election was stolen. Just like every other election we see that was stolen. I mean, how does Trump make it into office and then all these other places have nothing but Democrats? How does that happen? you know?
It's clear. I mean, when you have we can go into that a different call, but
Yeah.
when you have a large dump of election ballots and then you have people confirming that there's people, getting paid over Skid Row for votes, these are all discrepancies that I think people should say, hey, there's a problem here. But instead they're saying, well, nothing to look at here, or that's business as usual. That's what we've done in the city of LA. And that's why we're in the mess we're in now, not only with the homeless issue, but cops not wanting to stay on the department. And then others don't even want to come work here because I don't care how much you're going to pay them, you're not treating them well. And nothing's changed. And the best, I always say this, the best recruiters are retired folks or people on the department because otherwise if you have current department members saying, "Yeah, I wouldn't come to LAPD. I'd go work Riverside or look at Beverly Hills. They're starting quite a big salary jump." I would, as a young rookie, I'd go somewhere else where they're going to protect you and more importantly support you.
When I put up the internal memo from LASD basically saying, we have no paper products, bring your own toilet paper to work. Beverly Hills PD actually private messaged me and said, hey, we got this great signing bonus and we have toilet paper. Send them over here.
That's great. That's
I know. I love
classic.
it. I love it. I love it. So, what do you think it's going to take to get people to want to come back to LA County to be
Well,
a law
you know,
enforcement officer?
and I'll stress this. We've created the city, particularly the enlist, not the enlisted, I'm thinking Marine Corps again.
Yeah.
The the elected have created such a deep hole here and black hole in this community. There's no local support for our police officers. Our police officers, every time they step out of the police car to do their job, you got some vulgar, street terrorist putting a camera in their face, cursing at them, demanding a complaint, generating complaints on officers. Well, our former chief enabled that. He allowed that mindset, these same individuals going to police commissions, screaming at our cops, really making it really complicated and not wanting to be cops in the city of LA. So I think long term, McDonnell and his leadership team, if he wants to keep those same people in place that really don't have a vision. I've worked alongside a lot of these individuals. These were the same people that were complaining about Moore's policies, his micromanaging. Yet, guess what? Nothing's changed, and they're still at the top. So here was an opportunity for them to say to Jim McDonnell, "Hey, Jim, we've got to change, our complaint policy. All this paperwork that we're generating for our cops. We've got over 2,000 administrative roles for police officers sitting at desks inside the offices. That's not going to work. It's business as usual that hasn't, proven success in the past. Why is it going to help us now? Or why is it going to help the department now? So he's got to make some drastic looks as to what's demolishing morale and what's keeping people from staying on. Retention is a big problem. He's got to sit down and say what's causing these people to flee to go to other agencies where they're treating them better, for instance. So he's got to take a deep dive. We could all claim I want 5,000, 6,000 more cops, but it's not going to happen unless you change internally what's causing the problem.
Not to mention that I have seen messages, actually, I reported on it in one of our first articles about Olympic staffing, that they had a meeting up north in Northern California, like a bunch of different agencies got together
Mhm.
and they said, hey, if y'all want to go down and work, you know, work the Olympics. And they're like, fuck no. I don't want any part of that. I do not want to be a cop in LA County.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
No,
is a big no, a big no no.
we're going to talk about that in our two-part article. And
Yes.
I know you joke that I can't do it all in one article, so I did two for you. Um, but
More
there's two.
content.
There's problem to that. You'll see it, in the article. The first part of it talks about the black hole we walked into.
Yeah.
We had a lot of opportunities with planning. When we were working alongside Qatar for the World Cup, there was a lot of training alongside them to learn about what they did. It's a different mindset there and how they police, but it gave us an opportunity to kind of look on that. Olympics became a vacation really for the chief and his entourage to go over there and really visit. And then we're going to talk about the debacle they had with the security detail attacking a French citizen. But those are all lost opportunities that we gained nothing from. We sent reserve officers over there to walk alongside Chief Choi so they could take photos. That was our planning. That was our planning for the Olympics. We've got nothing out of it. So the articles will talk about those lost opportunities, but it'll also talk about the staffing issues. They're contemplating. It looks like it's going to happen, shutting down the academy for up to 8 months to allow 340 police officers from the academy to go work the streets. And I'm going to be frank with you. I think what's going to happen, we saw this in 2020 during the riots. As soon as they get that call to go out in the field to put a uniform on, they're going to go off sick. They're going to have injuries. They're going to, have stress, and they're not going to work the field. So that's a whole lost process in not only having additional personnel on the streets, but also losing new recruits coming in. And now the department's going to be that far further off in staffing numbers. So it's a band-aid, if you will. That's really the only way to put it. Hey, let's try to snap a band-aid on this failure because they don't want to change drastically the failures that's causing this.
Well, even Karen Bass, I think it was back in April, early April, she said, oh, I want to invest in LAPD. I want to invest. Literally 3 weeks later, she said, I'm fine with the levels of where they're at.
You
So
know,
here we are.
you know, you know what that was? It was buying a police union endorsement initially, and she gave the police union and the command staff a significant raise. They have a significant raise coming in the next 3 years. So she was able to get that endorsement, but like anything else, everything runs out. So the endorsement's already there. She's not looking good right now. And now you've got a socialist sitting in there as the potential candidate. Things aren't going to be good for the city of LA, especially for LAPD.
So bad.
Yeah.
Well, article number 1 is up on the current report website today. And the first newsletter is going out today before 6 o'clock. And which today is July 27th, Monday, July 27th. We are going to have max 2 newsletters a week. We don't want to spam anybody. And we always want you to open these fabulous newsletters and have your jaw on the floor the whole scroll down. So that's what we do here. We drop bombs. Anyway, Al, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for
And we'll
having me.
see what the week holds. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Bye.
Bye.